guys, welcome back to another installment of No Sleep. Today, we have part 2 from Bad Andy the Red. Title! The Old Fair, part 2. Where we left off in the last part, if you didn't see it, you should go back and watch it. But spoiler alert, it looked like one of their friends was going insane and maybe being possessed by the Popcorn Man. Appreciate everybody out there. Appreciate you liking and subscribing. It helps me continue to move forward. Without further ado, let's get into it. I ran on a blind panic, past the gate and into the woods beyond. It was so dark I got separated from the others, and I could only hear the distant, panic sound of feet stomping over dry leaves and sticks with abandon. I heard the sound all around. In front of me, beside me, and even worse, behind me. I kept running into the brush, branches and vegetation striking my face and tearing my arms. But I couldn't stop. I had to find my way back. I thought I heard a distant scream that sounded like Nikki. I prayed she was all right. Stumbling over a rock, I was pitched onto my face. The impact knocked the wind out of me, and I was panting and trying to catch my breath. I attempted to slow my breathing and focus on the sounds around me. I could barely see an inch in front of my nose, and I did not know if I should be more worried or less that the sounds of footsteps had vanished once I had stopped. I considered that I might be safe for the moment. My mind was racing to try and find some explanation as to what the hell we had just witnessed. Something was there, something in that cart. It got Joey. Twisted him. If I had not seen that little girl and heard her warning, I would have thought he had just snapped, but I realized it might not be so simple. It was quiet all around me, and I had no idea where I was. I resolved to walk in any direction that was not the way I had come from. Staggering through the dark forest for an unknown amount of time, I knew I was lost. I had no means to find the trail back into the Stygian dark. It felt like I had gone miles, and I knew I must have spent at least an hour in my exhausted wandering. Then I saw a light, and I was hopeful I had reached the edge of the forest. I thought it might be the mill in the distance. I figured if anyone was there late, or if they at least had a guard on duty, then someone could help. As I got closer to the source of the light, my heart sank. I had found my way out of the dark trail, right back to where I had started. I felt overwhelmed and hopeless as I looked around and saw that I had arrived back at the main entrance to the fair. The place was lit up now, just like it had been in the vision I had. Bright torches and old electric bulbs lit up avenue of intact tents and buildings. The terrible echoes of people who had died there were heard again on the wind. And worst of all, in the distance, I heard the ever-present popping of popcorn. I thought I was going to die. I thought my friends might have already been killed by the Popcorn Man. Suddenly, I heard gasping behind me, and to my relief, I saw Nikki emerge from the trees. I saw the same look on her face when she saw where she was, realizing that the nightmare was not over. She saw the fairgrounds and fell to her knees and started crying. I rushed over to her, and she stood up and took a reflexive step back. Are you really you?" she whispered with fear in her eyes. I nodded my head and just whispered back, "Yes." Not really having a way of proving I was, but hoping she would believe me. She rushed forward and hugged me. I could barely breathe, she squeezed me so hard, but it was comforting nonetheless that someone else was there with me. Now, we just had to find a way to get out before the Popcorn Man found us. Nikki and I argued quietly about whether to try to leave through the dark forest again or try something else. I didn't know how, but it seemed like we were being kept there by some force. It could not be a coincidence that we fled into the woods only to arrive back at the same time. despite running in the opposite direction. I tried to convince her to go with me into the fair and to try to find a hiding spot or something, at least until morning. I knew it was a bad idea, but I also knew we couldn't escape back the way we had come, not yet at least. Nikki was not easily convinced. We can't stay here. Joey has lost it. He thinks he is the popcorn man. He's going to kill us, just like he did Zoe, she said, trying to keep her voice down as she looked around in panic. I know it's not safe here either, but maybe we can find some place to hide, somewhere with doors or a weapon. It's better where we can at least see the danger. Out there we'll get lost and picked off one by one. For all we know, Kyle is already dead, I said somberly, and Nikki considered the morbid idea and shuddered. I just want to go home. Our parents are probably already looking for us. They have to be, right? They might be searching the woods right now, she said with a pleading tone, like if she believed it strongly enough it would be true. I hoped she was right. We were all AWOL from home, and I hoped she was right that our parents were looking for us. But what could they find out here, if no one could reach the old fair? I wondered if we only found the place because it wanted to be found, because it was daytime and something let us in. Our debate was ended for us by the rustling of leaves and the sight of someone emerging from the tree line. We both must have been expecting Kyle, because we each took a step forward in anticipation. When we saw who it really was, Nikki shrieked and I screamed as well as we ran toward the old fair to flee Joey, covered in blood and still wearing the popcorn man apron.
What's the hurry? We have all night. Come on, you two must be hungry. Have a snack. Visit with us for a while.
A chilling laugh that sounded like someone else's voice being superimposed over Joey's rang out. We ran madly down the main concourse of the old fair. I stayed right behind Nikki as we fled, and we heard the unhurried footsteps of Joey, the popcorn man, close behind us. Even as we sprinted away, he managed to stay close, only moving at a brisk walk. I stole one look behind us as we ran, and I regretted doing so. I saw a horrible transformation under the false light of the old fair. As Joey stepped under the glow of the lamps, he seemed to flicker for a moment and was replaced by the form of someone else, someone who was horribly burned on parts of his body and face. He wore a bright white concession outfit and hat. But the worst of all was the terrible rictus grin stretched across the burned tissue of his mouth. He was beaming at us as he followed, his eyes blazing with a hunger that was inhuman. We ran on and saw what looked like a utility building. It was small but had an intact door, so we rushed inside and slammed it shut. We looked around frantically for something to help keep the door closed, and I saw a heavy chest of various tools. "Help me with this," I shouted to Nikki, and started pushing it toward the door. It was heavy, and it moved slowly across the floor. We pressed harder in desperation as we heard the sound of that awful voice humming "Pop Goes the Weasel." The chest reached the door just in time to keep it closed as it began to heave with a thunderous force. The bashing went on for a minute or so, and then stopped. It was replaced by a gentle knocking.
"Hello? Is anyone there? Room service. We just need to clean the place. Are you paying guests or pests? I heard we have a pest problem, and I'm afraid I might have to call management to hire an exterminator. I never liked their methods, but sometimes it's funnier to use poison to get the job done. I just hope it doesn't spoil the flavor of what's left. See your bodies soon."
The voice cackled, and then we heard a popping sound, and then footsteps receding from the door. Nikki inched closer and pressed her ear to the door. The next moment, she fell back and started coughing. I smelled it too, a sickly aroma that hurt to breathe in. We realized he had hooked up some kind of ventilation system to the room we were in and was flooding the place with caustic fumes. "We have to get out of here. It's some kind of poison," Nikki shouted in between fits of coughing. I looked around desperately to see if there was another way out. The whole place seemed like a giant metal box, and I could not see a way out that was not back through the door we had just blocked. We kept searching desperately, and I was about to lose hope. Then I saw in the corner of the room a section of paneling that looked bent. There was a glimmer of light emerging from the bent section, and I called Nikki over. We managed to find some tools in the room, and with a few pry bars were able to pull the panel apart just wide enough to escape through. We leapt out of the toxic room and onto the ground outside. The popcorn man was nowhere in sight, and we used the opportunity to carefully slip away to a darker space between buildings. We tried to stifle the lingering coughs we still had as we moved along as silently as possible. As soon as we were in the clear, Nikki wrapped me in a hug and cried softly into my shoulder, trying to process another near-death experience. I hugged her back, and for a moment we were just grateful to still be together and still be alive. The sounds around us became more oppressive as we crept in the shadows, trying to stay as far away from where we thought our pursuer was. The whispering voices in the fair became screams. The entire place got hotter, and there was a smoky haze that carried the scent of blood and butter. Nikki was holding her hands over her mouth to keep from screaming or crying, and I was right there with her. I tried to focus on where we could take shelter. I hoped that if we were at least getting close to morning, maybe then whatever power this place had would lessen enough for us to escape. She was afraid to keep moving into the light and out into the open, but I held her hand and tried to reassure her. We saw something that might help. In the distance was what looked like a security booth. Sort of an old-timey affair that a private security worker or even a constable might occupy. We rushed over to the building and tried the door. It was open, and we rushed inside and closed it as quickly and quietly as we could. Inside was mostly empty, but a bright red fire axe had been left on a table. It looked new, like it didn't belong with the older stuff that this nightmare version of the fair had conjured. Nikki looked at me nervously and expectantly, and I took the hint and hefted the heavy axe. I was barely able to lift it, but at least we had something to defend ourselves with if all else failed. "It must be getting close to morning. Maybe if we hide here, we can hold out till then and we can escape," I told her hopefully. Nikki looked at me scared and doubtful, but nodded her head and agreed. Yeah, okay. We can do that." We waited in there, under the heavy desk, listening to the nightmare carnival around us. The sounds got worse. We heard the echoes of people being slaughtered and burned alive. All the while, the demonic laughter of the popcorn man was the backdrop to it all. Suddenly, we heard a sound that we knew was not just the ghosts. It sounded like a person was right outside. "Help, guys, help! Where are you? We need to get the hell out of here." We heard Kyle calling out for us. I leapt up, and Nikki held onto my hand, staying under the desk. She shook her head, and I immediately understood her reservation. I knew it was dangerous, but I had to go see. I had to try and save Kyle if it was him. I poked my head out the door and saw the distant glimmer of dawn. I had hoped we might make it out of there. Then I looked around and saw the plaza outside was empty. I thought it might have been a trick, but I heard Kyle again. "Help! Please! Behind the cart! I'm stuck! He chained me to it!" I stepped over cautiously, following Kyle's pleading voice. I rounded a corner and saw the horrible popcorn cart.
I took a step back and gasped, but the popcorn man was not with it. I heard Kyle calling out again. "Help me, please! Before he comes back! Come on! Luke, is that you? Nikki? Come on, guys!" Against my better judgment, I moved closer to the horrible cart and looked behind it. Kyle was not there. "Kyle? Where are you?" I asked cautiously, a bad feeling welling up in my gut. "Oh, I'm here. Have you tried the popcorn? I'm delicious." His voice sounded distorted, and I took a terrified step back as I saw the cart top open. There was a sequence of loud popping sounds, and soon popcorn started flooding out of the cart, followed by a wave of blood, and amidst the popcorn, I saw something horrific. It looked like eyeballs and teeth. Soon I saw Kyle's entire face emerge in the carnage. I stumbled back in sheer horror at the impossible sight. Then I heard a scream and turned around, only to find the popcorn man standing by the security building. He had Nikki cornered, and I had to find some way to get him away. He started humming "Pop Goes the Weasel," and I shouted to get his attention just as he was stepping into the building. He paused, slowly turned around to face me, and laughed. "How did you like the treats your friend left? Pretty good, huh?" He giggled maniacally, and then started moving toward me. I had gotten his attention but was paralyzed with fear as soon as he laid his murderous eyes on me. He moved with unnatural speed and closed in. Just then, I thought he would grab me. I heard a grunt of pain and saw a sliver of light cresting on the top of the forest, shining down on the nightmare visage of the popcorn man. He covered his eyes, and the gruesome face shifted back to Joey's. There was a panicked look in his eyes, and he pled with me. "Can't stop him. Kill me. Do it now, before it's too late. Before he comes back. You need to stop him. You need to stop me." My heart hammered in my chest, and my mind raced for options. There had to be some other way. I gripped the axe tightly, but I could not move. Then I saw him step back out of the faint ray of sunlight, and his features slowly changed back into the hideous visage of the popcorn man. I had no time left. I had to do something. I made my choice and lifted the axe. I swung with all my might and embedded the head directly into the chest of the popcorn man. There was a horrible scream that sounded like it came from the pits of hell as the pressure around us was sucked out of the air. I saw the body fall to the ground and fell back, my hands still shaking from what I had done. I looked at Joey on the ground, bleeding. The axe was still lodged in his chest. I knelt down beside him, and as I saw his face returning to normal, I broke down. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to stop it. I couldn't save you." I rocked back and forth, unable to process the madness of what had just happened. Nikki ran over to me and held on to me. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. We're alive. We stopped the popcorn man. That was not Joey. It got him. It's not your fault." Nothing could fix what I had done, but her words did comfort me. We sat for a while in the bloody nightmare of the fairground, traumatized but alive. We both noticed a change in the air and a weird feeling of pressure being released. We stood up, helping each other as we rose and looked around. To our surprise, the fair was gone, or at least it had returned to the burned ruin it was when we first arrived. The initial shock of the change was jarring, but not as much as what we saw, or rather did not see next. The spot where Joey had fallen was empty. The body was gone. No trace of anything having happened. No blood, no axe, just gone. Neither of us could explain it, but we feared what that meant for anyone who got trapped in this living nightmare. We hoped that all of our friends who were lost would not be trapped here forever.
We left the old fair immediately, not looking back for a moment at the whispers that still lingered in the air. Our friends were gone. Dead maybe, but definitely gone, and we knew we would likely never see them again, except in our nightmares. In the daylight, the path led us out, and fortunately the trail did not change. We made it back home in less than a half an hour. As expected, our parents had been looking for us, and after the initial reunion, we were brought in to answer questions about what happened to us. The relief at seeing our return was soon replaced by anguish as Zoe, Kyle, and Joey's parents would learn their children were not coming home. We told everyone about what had happened, and as expected, no one believed us. When we were pressured by our parents and the authorities to tell us what really happened, we told them the only truth we thought they would believe. We told them we had gotten lost trying to find the old fair. We were stuck outside, and when night came, we were separated, and only Nikki and myself managed to find a way back. Search parties were sent out. The effort lasted for days, and eventually the town had reached some conclusion that Nikki and I already knew. They would not find anyone out there, though the reason why was more terrible than anyone would believe. I still think we only found our way to the old fair that day because something led us there. The people it lures will find the fair and the horrors within, while everyone else finds nothing but a never-ending forest. In the aftermath, I struggled to adapt to the fear and anxiety of life. I could not forget the pain and trauma of that night, and after much convincing and an opportune job prospect my dad found, we left our town and moved to another state. Nikki and I stayed in touch even after I left. Eventually, we wound up going to the same university, and our friendship and bond of sharing grief grew into something more. We got married and started a life together. We ended up a few states away in a comfortable home in a less rural area, lots of space for our own kids to grow up. We did not tell them the stories of the old fair and the popcorn man. In fact, we did not do urban legends at all in our house after our experience. We spent years happily living our lives together, and the horror of the past became a distant memory. But yesterday, something happened. Something that made us realize that after all these years, the ghosts of the past still linger. Our son Daniel came inside from playing in the backyard, and we saw he was holding something strange. We asked him what it was, and he said it was a toy from a friend. He walked up to us, and I looked down at what he was holding. It looked like a small burnt teddy bear with a blackened flag in its hand, and my heart froze. I looked closer to confirm what my spiraling mind had already concluded. The flag had the faded image of the old fair stamped on it. I was speechless, and Nikki, despite the fear I saw in her eyes too, asked him, "Who gave this to you?" Our son looked up at us and answered with a smile. "It was a nice man that said he was my Uncle Joey. He said he works at a fair where you guys used to live and that we could all visit soon. Can we go?" I looked at Nikki and she took my hand. I felt her pulse racing, and I tried to collect myself and think of what we should do next. Even after all these years, the old fair was still out there. We thought we were done with the misery it brought us, but the old fair was not done with us. The horrible memories came flooding back, and I considered the horrors that await us still. Our friends are still trapped in that nightmare purgatory, where the spirits of the dead rage and their suffering is drowned out by the echoes of a madman popping popcorn. I know we have to go back. Nikki knows it too. We have to save our own children, and we have to find a way to stop the evil of that place and the friends that reside there once and for all. I don't know how, but we have to try, because if we can't, we might be joining our friends sooner than expected. You don't have to go back. There's no reason to go back, right? I don't know. I think it's just like the realistic vision of this is like if this actually happened to you as a child and now you're an adult and you have a family, like obviously the people that went missing are gone. And it seems like he hasn't fully accepted that yet. Obviously because of what he's seen. There's a lot of supernatural stuff going on there. But geez, oh man, just because your kid finds something, now you feel like you got to go back. I'd probably just move again and move farther away. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I thought it was pretty good. Thought it was different. The whole popcorn thing being woven in there is pretty cool. Even though it might be like a little cheese, it's really, really good because I always base my decisions of quality off of have I heard it before, and I don't think I've read a Popcorn Man story, so it was pretty good. Appreciate each and every one of you out there in Masochist land. Stick around for more stories. Masochist. Farewell.